It's almost midnight, and a man is lying on his back under a car in his own driveway. Not because anything is broken, but because he wanted to see how the exhaust was routed. The garage light is off. He's using his phone flashlight, holding it in his teeth. Nobody asked him to be there. Nobody is paying him. His wife is asleep inside, and tomorrow he has work in 6 hours. But right now, in this specific moment, he feels more like himself than he has all week. This is not a hobby. This is a return. Most people move through the world treating machines as sealed boxes. A car starts or it doesn't. A phone works or it's broken. And broken means throw it away or hand it to someone else. This is learned helplessness. And it's not stupidity. It's just what happens when a brain is never given a reason to look closer. But some people never learned that lesson. Somewhere early on, a switch flipped the other way, and instead of fear when something stopped working, they felt curiosity. That's the first sign. Not loving cars, loving the moment right before understanding, the moment where confusion turns into a shape you can hold. Think about a kid who took apart a remote control car at age 7, not to destroy it, but because he needed to know what was making the wheels turn. His parents probably called it stubbornness. Really, it was an early dopamine loop forming, the brain rewarding itself for solving a physical puzzle instead of an abstract one. Some kids get that reward from books, from numbers, from music. This kid got it from grease and gears. And once a brain tastes that specific kind of reward, chasing it again becomes almost involuntary. Not a choice, a pull.
Here's the second sign, and it's quieter than the first. These people don't get anxious in chaos. They get calm. Most people, faced with a car that won't start on a cold morning, feel their chest tighten, their thoughts spiral, late for work, stranded, helpless again. But there's a certain kind of person whose nervous system does the opposite. Their heart rate slows down. Their focus narrows into something almost meditative. This isn't bravery, it's familiarity with disorder. Somewhere in their life, maybe childhood, maybe later, chaos was normal, and learning to fix something mechanical became the first place they ever felt control. A car engine doesn't lie. It doesn't have moods. If something's wrong, there's a reason, and the reason can be found. For someone who grew up in an unpredictable house, where emotions made no sense and adults were unreliable, an engine is almost a relief. It behaves. It follows rules. It rewards patience instead of punishing it. Control found in metal. That's the emotional root most people never notice. It's not really about cars. It's about needing one part of life to make sense. The third sign is how these people touch things. Watch someone who was born for this work run their hand along a hood, or listen with their whole body to an engine idling. Head slightly tilted, eyes somewhere far away. That's not performance. That's proprioception turned outward, the same sense that tells you where your limbs are in space, except they've extended it into the machine itself. The car becomes an extension of their own nervous system. They don't think in words when they work. They think in vibration, in smell, in tiny, irregular sounds most people would never register. This is sensory intelligence, and it's rarely celebrated because it doesn't show up on a report card. Schools reward people who think in sentences and numbers. They rarely reward people who think in touch. So many of these people grew up being told they weren't smart, when really their intelligence just didn't have a name yet. They weren't slow. They were tuned differently. The fourth sign is about identity, and this is where it gets a little uncomfortable to watch, because it's where insecurity and pride tangle together. For many of these people, fixing something broken became the first time they ever felt useful. Maybe they weren't the best student, maybe they weren't praised much at home, but the day they fixed a bike chain or figured out why a lawnmower wouldn't start, someone looked at them differently, just for a second. And that second mattered more than anything a teacher ever said. From that point on, competence with machines wasn't just a skill, it became proof of worth. This is why so many mechanics, so many people who work on cars for a living, take it so personally when a repair doesn't work. It's not ego about the car, it's old evidence being tested again. Am I still capable? Am I still someone who matters? The car is neutral. The feeling underneath is not. This is also why these people often struggle to explain their own passion to others.
They'll say something simple like, "I just like fixing things," because the real answer is too vulnerable to say out loud. The real answer is, "This is where I first learned I was capable of anything." The fifth sign is the strangest one, because it looks like stillness from the outside, but it's actually motion on the inside. People who were born for this kind of work often describe a certain peace when working with their hands that they can't find anywhere else. Not happiness, exactly. Something closer to coherence. Thoughts that usually race quiet down. Worry that usually loops goes silent. Neuroscience would call this a flow state, where the part of the brain responsible for self-monitoring, the part that constantly narrates your flaws and your fears, temporarily goes quiet. But you don't need the term to understand the feeling. You've probably felt it too, in some other form, doing something with your hands that made time disappear. For these people, that specific relief comes from metal, oil, torque, and problem-solving they can see and touch. For someone else, it might come from cooking, or writing, or running, or building something out of wood. The specific activity almost doesn't matter. What matters is that somewhere along the way, they found the one place their mind finally stopped fighting itself. This is the truth hiding underneath a title about cars. It was never really about cars. It's about the different paths people take to find a place where they feel capable, calm, and whole. Some people find that through people, some through art, some through faith. Some, very specifically, find it lying on their back under a vehicle at midnight, hands covered in grease, mind finally quiet. Most people spend their whole life waiting for permission to feel like this, waiting for someone to tell them they're smart enough, capable enough, worthy enough. The people who were born to work on cars didn't wait for permission. They just kept returning to the one place that made them feel real, over and over, until it became who they are. So the real question was never about signs or cars or mechanics. The question is this: what is the one thing you keep quietly returning to, the one that makes your mind go still? And why haven't you let yourself call it what it really is?